It's not Las Vegas, but we got something for you this evening here in the city of brotherly love. We got the 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. Welcome back to the regular season here on All Things NBA. Actually, the in-season tournament still qualifies as the regular season. So nice open by me there. Yeah, nice open by me there. Off and rolling here. Picks and roll, ladies and gentlemen. And wow, do we got a jam-packed board on DraftKings Sportsbook. 13 games in the association today, tonight. Let's go. Let's not waste any time. We got a lot to talk about as far as the NBA is concerned. Sean Barnard covers all things 76ers for us and the NBA. And he's got himself a nice little future on a team that is sitting in the in-season tournament finals. Sean, great to have you as always, my friend. The Pacers looked good last night. Nice call by you.
Yeah, absolutely. My Indiana Pacers, holding the plus 1,400 ticket for them to win it all. As I mentioned with this team, is they play a style of basketball that in a one-game setting is just really tough to match and can throw anyone off their game. We saw that once again with now the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks, the top two teams in the Eastern Conference. So I do think this is quite the statement from the Pacers. Lakers look terrific in that late game. I do think the Pacers are straight up better than the Pelicans. So we at least got that going for us. But it's going to be a tough one tomorrow night, no doubt about it.
Sixers and Atlanta Hawks going off at the Wells Fargo Center at 7:10 p.m. Right now, DraftKings holding steady at 8. Earlier this morning was at 7. So money coming in on the 76ers, and why not? Two teams already matched up back on the 18th of November, and Sixers ended coming away with a 10-point victory. Atlanta Hawks, a lot of guessing for that squad right now, but we know how dangerous they can be. So it will be a fun game to break down, and we'll get into that in just a second. But we got to open up, of course, with what we saw last night in the in-season tournament semifinals taking place in Las Vegas. I'll tell you what, still, Sean, I think you're looking for the same thing I am. Why did they start that game at 5 p.m.? Why?
Yeah. Makes
and then
zero
the next,
sense to me.
the nightcap, it felt like took forever to get there. Just like, what is going on right now? Look, they've made a great, I want to be up front. I'm a fan of everything in season tournament from the jump. I've been a fan of it, everything, even the courts. I think that you're going to change some things with the court features next year, which is great. But I love how everyone's coming around. And look, we had a pretty good matchup yesterday with the Bucks and Pacers. And of course, anytime you're throwing the Lakers into the mix, it felt like Las Vegas was LA last night in that game. LeBron goes off. Just a fun night of hoop that actually meant a little something more for December the 7th. But man, I just don't understand like the timing of it. Like I'm sitting there and the 5 o'clock game had no shot at catching, really none, till like 7. I think that was when I was able to really sit down and focus on it. Game was pretty entertaining still at that point. But it like I said, the nightcap just felt like the multiple pregame cover. It's like, dude, this isn't even a finals. What are you doing for Saturday night?
Yeah, it definitely feels like a miss as far as timing. I do think the NBA has done a pretty nice job as far as marketing this in-season tournament in general, but this one felt like a miss to me. I haven't heard a legitimate answer for why. It is bizarre just a 5 o'clock start in general, especially when like 7 and 10 is kind of like the assigned schedule on a nightly basis. That's what we're used to. But I know like legitimate basketball fans last night that like just forgot the game was starting because, you know, we're creatures of habit and weren't expecting it. And it's even crazier. Like 5 o'clock on the East Coast is tough with everyone with work and life and everything else going on. And it's even crazier when you think in Vegas where the game's being played, that's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's basically the middle of the night in Vegas. There's nothing going on at the afternoon right then. So maybe that was kind of their mindset. But yeah, I do think it was a huge miss. And the gap in the middle was weird too. It would have been much better to me if you can kind of flow those back to back. I get warm-ups, stuff like that, media obligations, a lot of complications that they got to tie in. But yeah, I did not like the 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock starts last night. I thought that was a big miss by the league.
And oh, by the way, the separate ticket, you needed a separate ticket to get into the nightcap versus the early game as well, which I think you just change it and make it NCAA, which if you ever been to the Wells Fargo Center for any of those games, you know how quick it is. And just, it's a great ticket to have. It's a lot of fun. So like I said, it's year one. I don't think they're going to go too crazy as far as change are concerned, but you will see some tweaks and I welcome that. And it sounds like you would as well. Let's talk about the play on the floor. First and foremost, I want to bring this up because everyone told me how bad Coach Bud was with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I don't know where you stand on this, Sean Barnard. And I'm curious to know where your thoughts are. with Budenholzer from last year for the Milwaukee Bucks, who ended up winning a championship with Giannis, and everyone expected them to win multiple championships, and I understand that. But you can't tell me that things are going smooth right now. And I'll tell you straight up that I think if they could do it all over again, they'd probably hit the rewind and go back to Coach Bud, because Adrian Griffin right now is getting called out in the locker room. They look lost. They have no organization, no, like it just felt like, some pickup basketball in the second half there. Like I said, I was able to catch the fourth quarter, which is all I really needed to see. They looked disjointed, and the Indiana Pacers looked like they were going to win that game, and they did. But as I said, you got some articles that are being released right now that it looks like Adrian Griffin is in some deep water at this point in time. Do you think the Milwaukee Bucks front office is looking around the room going, man, did we make a mistake?
I think a little bit. I think it's early to say that fully. It's a difficult spot. The Adrian Griffin, a first-time NBA head coach, and there's championship expectations year one, day one, with Damian Lillard and with Giannis. We've seen success stories for that. A great example being Nick Nurse, who won a championship in his first year with the Toronto Raptors. But that's a kind of an outlier in things that it's not easy to win an NBA championship. And Adrian Griffin really getting his first bite at the apple and trying this at the NBA level is really tough. So I have not been impressed from the way that he structured things from a rotation standpoint, the offense as a whole. Every coach and every team kind of has to find a different give and take for how much there is being hands-on with play calling things. For example, a team like the Lakers, when LeBron James is on the floor, you don't need to be calling a play every single time down the floor because LeBron's very much capable of doing that. I do think the Bucks are a team, and the article by Chris Haynes that you kind of mentioned there, Chris Haynes very much a Damian Lillard guy, that's the big source of his intel. But the beef was between Bobby Portis and Adrian Griffin, with Bobby Portis basically saying, you need to call plays down the stretch. And the one specific play that was called out, it was an inbounds play where Damian Lillard was getting picked up full court. Chris Middleton took the ball up the floor. They were trying to get the ball in Dame's hands. It ultimately resulted in Bruce Brown picking his pocket and ending with a layup down the end. That was a pretty momentum shifting moment in the game. And that coming from just no idea what the expectations are between these two teams or what the play call designed for that specific point in the game. So I do think Griffin needs to just kind of step up, be a true guy that is captaining the team, calling plays on a game, play in and play out kind of standpoint at this point. We hope that over the long haul of the season that Giannis and Dame kind of figured out how to play with each other enough. Brook Lopez has been terrific. I've honestly been way more impressed with the Brook Lopez pick and roll with Dame Lillard than Giannis, which is a compliment to Brook Lopez, but a little concerning. The Giannis stuff has not been more dangerous yet. So they're figuring things out. It's too early to bury them, but definitely some internal stuff that the Bucks need to figure out.
Giannis goes for 37 and 10. They ended up losing. And as you pointed out, they had the issues in the locker room after the game. We'll see what happens there, but they're out of the tournament. Let's talk a little bit more about the winners. And you have a 14-1 future ticket. Nice call by you. We'll see what happens. One more game to go. But Tyrese Halliburton, it's just this kid's star is just getting brighter and brighter every single time he takes the floor. 27, 15, 7. 27 points, 15 assists, 7 boards, not one turnover. And when he pulled hit that three-pointer, I knew it was going in. Tyrese Halliburton, what impresses you the most, Sean, when you watch him out there, especially for the Pacers right now? Years past, what has he improved the most? What is catching your eye the most right now?
For the most part, it's the freedom he's getting to play. It's interesting. I've seen a lot of whenever there's Halliburton having his days that Sixers fans love to jump on the Sixers should have traded for him instead of James Harden and all that revisionist history. It's tough to guarantee that Tyrese Halliburton, nobody could have predicted kind of the leaps that he's taking, that this Pacers team is fully catered to his strengths, allowing them to play with a fast tempo, make quick decisions. His playmaking is probably the biggest thing that stands out to me in his game. And that funky release that he has, I honestly think it works to his advantage that you can kind of like sneak get one off in a way that like it doesn't look like a pure jumper. And he's a real deal elite shooter, that he is a 40% plus 3-point shooting guy. The playmaking for me is the number one thing that stands out, but just the ability to captain an offense and be a true point guard at this point in his career at his age is incredibly impressive. And this Pacers team goes as he goes. He truly is an elite talent across the NBA. I made a list last night when I was really trying to think about how good he truly is. And I think I have him as the 10th best player in the NBA right now, which is very impressive at this point. And I think he could climb even higher as they move on. Not much there on the defensive side right now, basically zero, really bad defender. But offensively, he's tremendous. And it was so fun to watch too, right among the top players as far as just fun to watch as well.
Well, they ended up coming away with that victory yesterday. They were 5-point dogs, covered the number outright, and now they advance to the in-season tournament final, which will be taking place tomorrow night in Vegas, 8:30 start time. We like that, 6 ABC. Man, there was a lot of stars in the crowd for that Lakers game. I hope. Well, yeah, they're back in it tomorrow night. So why wouldn't the stars be out there? Of course, if it was the Pacers and the Pelicans in the final, who knows what we're looking at? But at this point in time, you got Lakers, you got LeBron, and the Pacers at the way they're playing with the high total of 241. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night. 4-point spread on DraftKings Sportsbook. Lakers are favored at this point in time, minus 175. I think it's really close. I think this is going to be a really great game. The Pacers can shock the world. They could send a message that, maybe this isn't just a fluke. Maybe this is a team we need to watch out for. And I really do believe that if they do win this is something that could, I don't know, not catapult them, but definitely, where we have the dog days of summer in Major League Baseball, that January to All-Star break in February is some sluggish times for NBA players. So maybe this is something that gets them believing a little bit more in themselves. They're able to end December in the right path and then take that into January as far as momentum is concerned. I don't know. Get a little ahead of myself. We'll see what happens there. Putting your future to the side, how do you feel about that game tomorrow night, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to me is it's very clear LeBron James wants to win this thing. So that kind of sways me towards the Lakers side for sure. We saw it last night. He's out there taking charges, running full court, playing at a higher level than anyone else on the floor at his age. Incredibly impressive. And it's clear. I mean, LeBron, that's what stood out to me the most watching last night. As long as that carries into tomorrow night, it's tough to put your money anywhere but the Lakers. I will be looking at that minus 175 for some sort of hedge and figuring out exactly what the best way to do that is, I think. But I do think the Pacers have a chance in this one. I do think they're a legitimately good team. This is something that they can definitely build off. And I do think from a matchup standpoint that the Lakers are a team that is vulnerable to their up-pace style of play. That when you have a team that the Lakers at their best are playing in a half-court setting, that Anthony Davis is a guy that wants to patrol the paint. The Pacers are going to make a conscious effort to get down there before Anthony Davis does. That I expect the exact same process as far as the second that ball goes through the hoop, they're already pushing it down the offensive end. The Lakers are going to have to make an adjustment and force the style of play. I think how the tempo goes and which team is dictating the tempo will ultimately decide tomorrow night's game. If the Pacers can do what they've done these past two games against the Celtics and Bucks, who are both very good teams, I could absolutely see them walking away and winning this game. But I do think that the Lakers are locked in, focused, and this means something to them. And to me, that the Lakers are for sure the more top end talent and the better team overall. So they're committed and they want it. I do think they ultimately get the win.
How do the Pacers get that pace? No pun intended. How do they force it to say, does it come down to them making shots, right? Because you can't go run and gun if they're not falling, correct? So how are they able to play their game and maybe take the Lakers? Because I'm with you, right? If the Lakers are able to do what they want, control, relax, Anthony Davis down low, LeBron doing his thing, yeah, that's the recipe for success for them. But for the Pacers with their high, endurance, keeping it moving, fast paced, 3 points up, that sort of deal. If they're not making them, then how can they force the Lakers to do what they want?
Yeah, I mean, for what impresses me the most about the Pacers is when they do it after makes. That there's moments where the opposing team will make a shot and they're already down the floor and have answered within 10 seconds. And that's really stuff that does not happen ever in basketball. That generally, when you make a basket that you're ready to get back and get settled, the Pacers don't allow you that luxury. So it starts with Tyrese Halliburton, that he ultimately is the decision maker in this. He's capable of making these high level full court passes, which set up guys and boost his assist totals. So that's kind of a way. It comes down to fitness and desire. This team is running up and down the court. They are just ready to outcompete you. They have guys leaving their bodies on the line as well and competing super hard. So mostly it's just outworking a team that they're ready to run up and down at a faster rate than you. And to this point, they have not met a team that can match that. I'm interested. The Lakers are obviously going to be well aware of this in the same way that we are. So there's got to be that type of effort. But we see it throughout the ebbs and flows of game, that there's always kind of those just little blurbs in memory where you forget to get back, or effort level where you're kind of lollygagging on the way back. And the Pacers are going to capitalize on that every single time. So we'll see how locked in the Lakers can stay from that standpoint. But really, they're going to make an effort to push it, and they're still good enough to create a lot in the half court. It helps when you have these full court lob threats like Obi Toppin, who there's a tremendous connection with Tyrese Halliburton, a ton of great moments for that. So it's going to be tough to guard. It's going to be fun to watch.
Toppin finished with 14. Turner with 26 yesterday. Oh, by the way, Pacers didn't really hit their shots too much last night. They were 7 of 33 from downtown, 7 of 33 from downtown, and they still put up a $128 in a win over the Milwaukee Bucks. Really interesting stuff there. All right. Yeah, look, just putting the final bow here on all things semifinals. I thought Vegas was really cool. I thought that the way that the crowd looked, I like how the light was just strictly on the floor, kind of dim things out. I went to a game in Chapel Hill at the Dean Dome or Smith Center, not at the Dean Dome, Smith Center. And that's how they had it. I've never been to another. I just remember my first time being at like a big time basketball game where they dimmed those lights and it was just the focus was on the court, and I loved it. And I thought every team should do it, but you got to have some cachet like UNC, the Lakers do it. I think the Sixers started doing it a little bit in the past few years, which I like. So it just makes a little bit more of a spectacle about what's happening on the floor. All the stars were in the front row, all the greats, Dr. J, KG, Gary Payton, Shaq, of course, came over there. I'm liking what I'm seeing. The trophy, you see these teams, they care about it. Look, I think, don't get me wrong, I think, people lose their cool throughout the course of 82 in a regular season game, but Bobby Portis, I bet you $500,000 had a lot to do with why he was vocal yesterday. I'll guarantee it. So I don't know, man. The money dangled it. Pretty damn good job by NBA. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it's absolutely working. They're making a little bit of a spectacle of it. And I think we're about 20 games into the season now. So about 1/4 of the games in for just about every team out there. That's this is a talking point to normally this being like the lull of the season. And we do have the in-season tournament to talk about. So there's still 3/4 to go. We'll kind of next approach this like trade deadline window where we're talking about talking about all the different like what teams are going to do. And then from there, it's the playoff push and then the actual playoffs. So it's kind of nice how the NBA has this set up. We'll see how it ultimately plays out. But yeah, I'm pretty excited with how things have played out so far. And hopefully the championship lives up to the hype.
You can get the Indiana Pacers 150-1 to win it all.
For the NBA championship, that is? Yeah, I might stay away from that one at this point. As much as they are my Indiana Pacers, the biggest thing that I've said about them is in a one-game setting, they're a scary team. In a playoff setting, not quite as much when you can make some adjustments over a 7-game series. Historically speaking, this up pace, this Mike D'Antoni-esque kind of system, this 7 seconds or less offense does not quite translate to the postseason. So I'm still pumping my brakes on them from a long-term standpoint. But Woj talked about yesterday how Halliburton's actively recruiting, trying to bring guys to Indiana, and they want to fully build around him, put the chips in the middle around him. So that could, my opinion on that absolutely could change depending on how this roster shakes out.
Indiana, huh?
Yeah,
heard it's lovely this time of year.
Yeah, it's not the most attractive spot for sure, but Tyrese Halliburton has like an infectious style of play that guys are going to want to play with. That as much as the location isn't ideal, Halliburton's a guy that if you build it, he will come. You have Tyrese Halliburton. People are going to want to play with that guy. So I think they have a chance of getting it done. We'll see. It is a small market, but I would like to see the Pacers start to build something up there.
Well, how about that? We just did 18 minutes on all things in-season tournament. So, again, the NBA or the in-season tournament finals tomorrow, 4-point spread on DraftKings Sportsbook. With that being said, let's get on over to today's card and, of course, open things up with the 76ers returning back to home. Of course, last time we saw them out, they beat up on the Wizards, got a little dicey at the end, but still JoJo went for 50. And he said he wasn't even 100%. He said his chest was hurting him. I do remember seeing and hearing that he wasn't 100%. That was the first time I read that this morning, that his chest was hurting him. To tonight, taking on the Atlanta Hawks, 8-point spread, 241. Is there a question mark about Joel Embiid's health again? Anytime we wager on the Sixers, you always have to take this into account, as I was burned 2 weeks ago, I think it was, where he didn't play in that game about a week and a half ago, and had a wager on it hour before tip, and he doesn't play, and you just felt terrible. That was the Oklahoma City game. Felt terrible about that game. Here we are in this one. Is there any question marks about Joel Embiid's health this evening?
Yeah, as of now, no mention, no listing of them, but I believe it was the Pelicans game that this happened for. And there was no
It
mention of
was,
it.
it was, it was, it was.
Yeah.
You're right. Good call.
But there was no mention of it in that game either. So it does suck that he's always a guy you have to have a little bit of an asterisk next to. But at this point in time, all signs are indicating that he will play. It's just him kind of fully catching himself back up to in shape and in form after being sick. He is a guy that has not handled sickness the best over the course of his career. He said he could only get up on the court 2 or 3 times from a running standpoint before he was winded with this sickness a couple days ago. So hopefully he's working himself back into shape and kind of shaking off whatever illness he was dealing with. But it does sound like he's going to be on the floor, and do feel good about with him there, the Sixers getting the job done and even covering that -8 tonight.
All right. Again, the Atlanta Hawks, not the best season for them by no means as far as the start is concerned and everything we've seen. That little disappointing what's taking place down there as far as in Atlanta. 9-11 on the season. Sixers are 13-7 here. Your thoughts about this game? What's the big matchup that you'll be eyeing up? Where if there's any place that you could pinpoint worry as far as what Atlanta brings to the table tonight, where would you put that at?
Yeah, I'm curious how much these teams cross guard the guards, that being D'Anthony Melton guarding Trae Young and DeJounte Murray guarding Tyrese Maxey. I kind of want to see a Maxey and Trae Young just battle going at each other. And for all the people that have critiqued Maxey's defense, I will once again challenge them to watch Trae Young for a game because he makes it look night and day. So I do think the Sixers can exploit that. I'm curious where they try and hide Trae Young on from a defensive standpoint. We've seen a lot of examples, even like last night in the NBA, of them really hunting Tyrese Halliburton from a defensive standpoint. I'm curious how much these Sixers go after Trae Young tonight. I kind of like Maxey's points from that standpoint, that I do think that Nick Nurse is going to make an effort to get those switches, get Maxey on Trae Young, and ultimately deliver to that point. So that's probably what intrigues me the most, is how the backcourts match up, how often the Sixers are able to get Maxey and Trae Young as a matchup, which I think favors the Sixers on both sides of the ball, even though Trae Young is still very good. And then the other thing that you always have to keep in mind with the Hawks is their lob threat ability. That Trae Young phenomenal at making defenses make a decision and capitalizing in the other way. The Sixers have been a very bad team defending lobs, and be just not that much of a vertical threat from a defensive standpoint. He still has his flashes where he'll make a crazy recovery block and things like that, but for the most part, he's pretty disinterested in getting verticals. So it wouldn't surprise me if Trae Young has a nice amount of alley-oops tonight, and Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu deliver on that.
All right, excellent stuff there. Anything else from tonight? So we're keeping our eyes on Maxey, JoJo, of course. Let's fire it up on DraftKings. Take it just a dialed-in number here. I was already looking at some other games, but come right back to the player points. Joel Embiid listed at 32.5. Trae Young at 26.5. He just went for 30 last time out against the Brooklyn Nets. They've lost 4 of 5, so it's kind of a desperate team right here. But again, it's a Friday night in the regular season, December the 8th. So how desperate will the Hawks be? Maxey listed at 25.5. As you said, you got to like Maxey there.
Yeah, I like that. And I got 2 other plays that I really like in this matchup. Player assist, I like Nicholas Batum over 2.5. You can get that at plus 140. The Sixers are running a ton of their half-court offense through him as the primary decision maker now. He does a really nice job with the entry passes to Joel when he gets down on the block, gets that early position. So the plus 40 at 2.5, I really love that value there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I like D'Anthony Melton over 1.5 steals at plus 154 there. So Trae Young's a guy who at times can be a little careless with the ball, trying to force an extra pass there. I do think D'Anthony Melton is going to be the primary guy that defends him in tonight's game. So I think he's going to just at least knock away 2 there, pick up 2 steals. He's averaging just under 2 on the season. I think he gets that tonight. So feel good about both those numbers, and was surprised to see both them at plus money.
Great plays. Yeah, 154 plus 140 there. So let's link up those and see if we can get a little same game parlay going too as well with those involved. And I'm telling you, we're going to be able to dig up some nice numbers there. Good call on that one, Sean. Let's keep it moving. A lot of action to get to tonight in the association. Pistons and Magic. We'll go ahead and jab at these. You go ahead and wax poetic on as much as you want here. But the Magic, pretty hot this season. I think they've lost their last 2. I have to look into that real quick. Lost on the road at Brooklyn, lost on the road at Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. Here they are back at home taking on the Pistons, who have lost 18 straight. I don't expect them to go to Orlando and win tonight, but 11's a lot of points to be given. I kind of like the Magic here. I'm going to take the home squad. Where you at?
Yeah, I'd probably lean towards the +11 from the Pistons side. The Magic feel like they're coming down to earth a little bit after the hot start to the season. They're still going to be a very good team. I still think a playoff team or play-in playoff team kind of on that fringe. Paolo Banchero is the real deal. Franz Wagner is the real deal. They're still kind of figuring things out. The Pistons, they've been bad, losing 18 in a row, as you mentioned. Jalen Duren just picked up an ankle injury, so he's going to miss some time, which I do think is a hit to them. I think he's probably their most complete big man kind of prospect they're developing. But I also think it does help with the logjam situation of not so much of guys looking over their shoulder, fighting for minutes. The Pistons are not as bad as they fully look. They're not a lose 18 games in a row on a consistent basis bad. So I think there's going to be a point where they kind of right the ship a little bit. I think they remain competitive tonight. I do think the Magic get the win, but I like that +11 number.
All right, keep it moving. Next game up, Raptors and Hornets. Both these squads have lost 4 out of their last 5. Raptors lost on the road in Miami. Charlotte lost on the road in Chicago. This game's being played in Charlotte, 5.5 on DK. Charlotte, the home dog here, catching 5.5. 221 is your total in this one. I don't know. When I looked at it, just, bare bones, I kind of thought that 5.5 was a little too many, but maybe the odds makers are trying to tell us something. So lean towards the favorite here. Where do you stand, Sean?
Yeah, still no LaMelo Ball in this one, which is a big hit for the Hornets. I've had a tough time getting a feel for either one of these teams. I think the Hornets actually match up with the Raptors in a pretty solid way, that they got better big men. They have a lob threat action. They have some stuff that they can do offensively that the Raptors are vulnerable to. But I still think I lean towards the Raptors in this one, that Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, and OG Anunoby, probably the 3 best players on the floor. Brandon Miller in that mix as well. Terry Rozier, you can make an argument for, but I do lean Raptors just from that top end talent standpoint. They're still figuring out what they are. I don't think either of these teams are guys that I'm going to jump fully for or against at this point. So not a game that interests me a ton, but probably lean towards the Raptors side.
All right, one of the bigger games we got this evening, Boston, who's undefeated at home. Are they 9-0? Is that what they are this year? 9-0 at home? I think something
Believe
like
so.
that.
Yeah.
How about that? Really interesting stuff there. They've taken on the Knicks already 2 times, win both of those games. Last time was on the 13th of November. Boston won 114-98. Here we are this evening, 7:40 tip, 7.5 point spread. Boston at home, 221. No Porzingis still. Anything for you on this game?
Yeah, I like the Knicks to the +7.5. Feel a little bit more confident about this one. The Knicks are just a solid team that don't have very many holes. That yes, they lack that top end talent. Julius Randle coming off a really strong performance, but in that elimination game for the play-in tournament, he's played really poorly to start this season. So hopefully that's some signs of him turning things around. Jalen Brunson's still going to do his thing, captain the offense, run the show. I do like the Knicks to keep within that +7.5 margin. Celtics have some questions to answer too. That I think it will take a pretty impressive Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown performance. That this Knicks team, they're scrappy, they play hard defense, they're physical with you. I think that they're going to get some damage done because of that and ultimately keep it a game throughout this one.
All right, we'll move on. Brooklyn and Washington. The Wizards are absolutely atrocious. I think the last time that they played was against the Sixers. Tight game down the stretch, but ended up losing that game. And they did play back on the 12th of November. Brooklyn ended up winning by 8. Fast forward to tonight on DK. You're looking at a 9.5 point spread game being played in BK. 238.5 is your total. I don't know. Bridges is the hot hand. Definitely look to him from a prop standpoint. Wizards, you just don't know what you're going to get. Are they going to play with some motivation? Probably not. So maybe the Brooklyn might be the play here. Where are you at in this one?
Yeah, this is what I'm probably staying away from a betting perspective. Probably lean Brooklyn just on the standpoint that I have zero faith in the Wizards. I will say that as bad as they are, they're still entertaining, that they still do something that you're surprised to see on a basketball court on a pretty much nightly basis with Jordan Poole specifically there. 9.5, I also think it's just probably a little too much for the Nets against anyone, as bad as the Wizards are. The Nets have some holes as well. So going to be a strange game. Probably lean toward that -9.5, but don't feel great about it. But yeah, I think the Wizards are more or less packing it in at this point. That this is a team I do expect to have the top lottery odds when all things are said and done this year.
Yeah, probably right. And then no Wimby in this draft. You got some decent names in college hoops. I don't know who's across seas or anything like that, but to be honest with you, I have not looked at an NBA mock draft.
There's
Have you?
Yeah, I've peaked a couple times. There's a guy on the G League Ignite. I'm forgetting his name right now that I believe's the top pick, and a guy overseas is kind of competing with them as the top 2. Ron Harper maybe might be the guy's G
Oh,
League name. I
yeah.
feel like is coming to me. I'm not 100% positive on that, but he's a guy that's played with the Ignite, looks real strong, and there's still some guys in this draft, but it is perceived to be a weaker class.
Ron Holland.
Ron Holland, that's who I'm thinking of. Yes,
Yeah,
I think
Ron Holland.
Harper is the dude that just committed to Rutgers. He's the #1
Yep,
recruit. Yeah, my
correct.
fault there.
It's all right. There is a kid from France, 7'1", Alexandre Sarr, who plays for the Perth Wildcats. He's listed as 1. Isaiah Collier from USC. He's listed at 2 as a point guard. 3 is, and again, this is NBADraftRoom.com. Castle from UConn. I just watched him play the other day. A kid from Baylor, Jacoby Waiter.
He's awesome.
Another kid from France. So we got 2 from France at the top 5. Excuse me. Woo! Look, I like Evan Mobley, but when your comp is your #1 overall pick is Evan Mobley, I don't know if, that's tough. He's a good player, but it's definitely not Wemby at 1. Let's put it that way. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's talk about the Warriors and Oklahoma City Thunder. This is going to be a great game. OKC favored by 3. Last time that they played a couple weeks ago, OKC won on the road in Golden State. OKC last time out, they lost. I like them in this game. I think OKC is the play here, -3 at home on a Friday night. 236.5 is your total in this one. Where you at?
Yeah, I lean towards the Thunder as well, but my favorite play in this matchup is absolutely the over. This is the lowest team total over that either one of these teams have had all year at 236.5. I can't still quite figure out why that on the season, the Thunder are 6th in the NBA in scoring at 118.8 points per game. The Warriors at 12th at 114.6 points per game. The over's gone 7 for 8 in the last 8 matchups between these two teams. So I've been surprised to see it this low. This is something I probably expected in kind of the 242 kind of neighborhood if I had to put a number on it myself. So I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. And one thing to note, I also kind of like the Steph Curry assist. You can get that at 4.5 at +125. The Warriors have changed up kind of their style with Chris Paul, that they're now kind of alternating the Chris Paul and Steph Curry minutes. They're asking Steph Curry to be a point guard again, which we'll see it with the overall takeaway of that. But I do think that he's going to have a chance for more assists, that he's going to have the ball in his hands more. And I think there's going to be a lot of scoring, and Steph Curry is going to be responsible for a lot of it.
Excellent stuff. T-Wolves and Grizzlies next game up. You're looking at Minnesota T-Wolves 6-point road favorites taking on the Grizz in Memphis. 214 total. Anything for you on this one?
Grizzlies coming off a win. Feels like they're starting to turn things around. They are competing. Desmond Bane had an incredible game last time he was on the floor. I don't think they're going to roll over, but I still probably lean the Timberwolves -6 in this one. T-Wolves defense is the real deal, and they're still about to get back Jaden McDaniels, which is only going to boost that even more. Yeah, I feel good about the Timberwolves. I'm ready to buy in that this team is legitimately good and stopping waiting for them to kind of come back to reality. I think them being a pretty close to top-tier team in the NBA is the reality.
All right, next game up. Bulls on the road in San Antonio. Chicago Bulls have won 3 straight. How about that? They're 2.5-point favorites Friday night in San Antonio. 224.5 is your total. 840 tip here. I like the Spurs. Spurs have been normally catching double digits against most teams. Here they've returned to home, coming off a loss. I'd like to find them. I'd like to believe that they can go out there and get a dub. Maybe Wemby leads the way. Big game from him tonight. But for me, I'm looking at the Spurs here, catching the 2.5 at home as a live dog. Where do you stand, Sean?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I don't have an issue going with the money line tonight either. That Spurs finally making some adjustments in their play, that they did send Jeremy Sochan to the bench. It's been weird, that whole developmental process, trying to make Sochan the point guard. He's really been like a power forward through his rookie year and in college in Baylor. Never a guy that really was a decision maker with the ball in his hands. They're really trying to make him that, and it has not worked. But they did elevate Devin Vassell back to the starting line and drop Sochan on the bench. I do think that's going to be more conducive to winning. Maybe not for his long-term development or what their goal is, but I ultimately just don't think Sochan's a point guard. So I think it's fine to pull the plug on that experiment. And they're a better team with Devin Vassell in the starting lineup. So I do like that. I do think that gives them a better chance to win. And Wembanyama, I think, has cooled off a little bit off his hot start. I think he's going to start finding his stride again and kind of readjust to the NBA atmosphere. So it feels like a good opportunity for the Spurs all around here.
All right, next game up. We've had a lot of rematches. A lot of these games we've been discussing the last few weeks. I remember this one. We were both on Houston. They ended up losing by 10, but they were catching 9 on the road in Denver. Let's run it back. This time a little bit, well, I was talking out of my ass. It is a 9-point spread again. They brought it right back to that number. Will there be a different outcome though this evening? Denver favored by 9, 221 is your total.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic coming off the worst shooting performance of his career, shot 9 for 32 in that last one there. I like the Nuggets in a bounce back spot here. Rockets are the real deal. They're going to compete. They're going to be a tough team. But I think that the Nuggets kind of felt that last loss. That was a wake up moment. And this is one where they get back on the right track and kind of make a statement right off the opening tip. So I like that -9 here from the Nuggets. I think Jokic leads the way. The Alperen Şengün and Nikola Jokic matchup is incredibly fun to watch. Two guys with some pretty similar styles of play. Jokic obviously does it at a much different level than Şengün at this point in his career, but he's absolutely takes some strides this year. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch them as the two epicenters of the offense, but ultimately think the Nuggets do get the win and cover that number.
All right, who's bouncing back here at 9:10 p.m. Game being played in Phoenix. Last time we saw these two teams play, both of them were eliminated from the in-season tournament. Pelicans got the best of the Kings, and the Suns lost to the Lakers. Kings are 2-point favorites on the road Friday night in Phoenix. 235 is your total. Any shot that the Kings keep that momentum going and find a way to win here?
Definitely a shot. I'm not counting the Kings out. Pulling up the Suns injury report now, there's going to be no Kevin Durant due to an ankle sprain, so that's a big reason for that line moment there. Bradley Beal still out of the lineup, so because of that, I'm going to slide in and go with the Kings in the -2 here. I think the Kings are the more complete team that with a team like the Suns, they're so top-heavy with the Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal trio that when 2 out of the 3 of those 3 guys are out, they're kind of in trouble from an offensive firepower standpoint. That does make me lean towards the Eric Gordon props that I've been very impressed with what he's been doing, what he's done when asked to elevate his role. He's at 17.5 at -110. I think he can be a 20-point scorer tonight. So I feel good about that number there for Eric Gordon, but ultimately side with the Kings in this one.
Yeah, they're 2-point favorites. I'm saying, is there any shot that they can win? Well, they're -130 on the money line, so of course there's a shot. It's just a little surprising, but with the injuries that they're dealing with on Phoenix's side, it won't be too much of a shock to the system if the Kings do win that game. All right, next game up, 10 p.m. Don't really have much for you on this one. Portland did cover the number last time out against Golden State. They were 12-point dogs. They ended up losing by 4 or 6, I believe. Here they are, 10 p.m. tonight, back at home, catching 8 versus the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I really like the Mavericks in this one on a -8. That the Mavs have shown me a little bit of that killer instinct that I like to see in teams. They blew out the Jazz that led to that legendary quote by Will Hardy after that game there. From the Trailblazers standpoint, no Jeremy Grant today, that he's got a concussion. DeAndre Ayton also listed as doubtful with a knee injury there. So those are 2 big hits to their team. The Mavs are going to eat with that pick and roll. Derek Lively has come alive this year and has been provided a whole nother element to that offense. Kyrie and Luka continue to do their thing. Luka Doncic is tremendous, and when he has it going, there's not much you can do. I think they cruise past this -8 number, and this turns to a blowout victory in front of the Portland crowd.
All right, and final game on the DraftKings board for Friday, December the 8th. Clippers and Jazz. Jazz are dealing with some injuries. Last time out, they got thumped by the Mavericks. They're catching 7.5 at home. 224 is your total. I like the Clippers in this one due to the fact of all the injuries the Jazz are dealing with right now. Where do you stand, Sean?
Yep, I would agree with you. No Lauri Markkanen, which is the biggest thing there. He's over a 20-point per game scorer and has been these past 2 years with the Jazz. So I do think the Clippers come in here and take care of business. And Clippers have been playing much better ball lately. That they're starting to figure out how to mix all these guys together with James Harden, with Kawhi, with Paul George, Russell Westbrook still doing his thing. So feels like Ty Lue's beginning to figure out what buttons he needs to push with this team. They're still figuring things out from the whole standpoint, and it's going to be a learning process throughout the year. But this is the type of team that you can kind of try things with and see what works. I think we're going to see some of that. I think 7.5 is really low. I would have guessed this to be kind of a double-digit number. So Vegas not truly buying what the Clippers are selling just yet. Neither am I from a long-term standpoint, but I do think in tonight's game specifically that this will be a double-digit victory, and they cover that 7.5 number.
Not much happening in Utah, so I would imagine there's going to be a lot of focus from the boys over there in LA. All right, one play, Sean. Prop play, whatever it can be, side, total, you name it, give it to us.
I'll go with the Warriors Thunder over as my top play today. And my secondary to that is my Nicholas Batum assist. That I love the Nicholas Batum assist. That's been one of my favorite bets on the year. I also think you can, depending on what you're looking at, do a little ladder bet there where you could take the 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. He has games with 5 assists pretty regularly. So if you want to level it up to that and see what the payout could be. I do think that's a profitable betting strategy.
We're going to see a lot of scoring in that game tonight.
For Hawks Sixers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
240.5, yeah.
Yeah, the Sixers unfortunately are starting to regress in kind of the pick and choose defense a little bit this year. The Hawks, even in their best case scenario, don't play a ton of defense. So I do think this game gets up and down a decent bit. We're going to see some points.
All right, great stuff. Sean Barnard, picks and roll. Can't thank you enough, sir. Once again, everybody, if you missed anything, all of our podcasts available at foxphlgambler.com. Be sure to follow Sean Barnard at Sean_Barnard1. That is the number 1. We got some really cool things going off this weekend. Sean's going to be meeting up with Paul Reed on Sunday. Yo, you're going to be in the mud on Sunday.
That's right. In the mud, talking Paul Reed doing some nice things with the shoe drive, partnering up with Q102, Bex and Buster over there. They do a ton of awesome stuff, providing some shoes for families in need around the Christmas season. So great to see Paul involved, and great that the Q102 family getting involved as well.
That's right. We got Jingle Ball coming up on Tuesday for Q102. I will be the voice of God on that one. It's going to be great. It's going to be a fun show. Usher's going to be performing. So Q102 is riding right now, man. They're up there in the air right now with everything that they got cooking. They teamed up with Regency Furniture Showrooms. And on Sunday, you could donate a new pair of sneakers to enter to win basketball tickets. And you can meet Paul Reed. That's going down Sunday, December the 10th, 2 to 4 p.m. in Warminster. That is off a Street Road. Once again, Regency Furniture Showrooms off of Street Road in Warminster. So come on out, 2 to 4 p.m. Meet Paul. Sean Barnard's going to be there. Q102, Bex and Buster. It's going to be a great time. All right, great stuff there today, Sean. Appreciate it as always. Hey, if you're listening to us on the Gambler, don't go anywhere. Swing It and Ding It is next. Otherwise, we'll talk to you on another episode of Picks and Roll.